is some sort of bittersweet event, if you will call it that, especially for Nigerian workers, as many bemoaned the value of the 30,000 naira minimum wage in the light of the cost of petrol and the rise in inflation, which is at 22%. And to mark this year's celebration, we had organized labor and the affiliates. They were meant to actually use the streets of Abuja, the nation's capital. But towards the day itself, which is today, an approval was then given for the Eagle Square to be used, which has always been the usual venue for the commemoration of the Workers' Day. And eventually, the Eagle Square was used, or in fact, the parade ground was eventually used. And the major issues came up today. There you see the Labour Party's presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, who made an appearance at the venue today. We also had representatives of the government, from the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, to the Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, as well as leaders of Labour across the country. We'll just give you a tidbit of what played out there today, and we'll come back to get into the big conversation. Take a listen.
Organizations of insisting that I must come and say hello. So I thank you for what you are doing. We must continue. The topic of today is socio-economic justice. When we talk about that, we talk about justice for all. All we want is a country where we will be the country where Nigerians will be proud to say that they are Nigerians. A country where people will not be struggling to go out. A country where all of us, workers, will say they are working and they are happy. We can't get the economy right, we can't get everything right until the workers are working and are being looked after, their welfare and everything, and they are productive. That's why we say we move it from consumption to production. I urge you to continue what you're doing, continue to be law-abiding. Let us have a peaceful country. We have no other country except this one. We must do it for our children. So I urge you to continue
Well, that's the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 presidential election, Mr. Peter Obi, speaking there. And one of the calls he made was for socio-economic justice. There were other speakers. You saw him flanked by Labour leaders there. So if we can also take a listen at some of the things that the Labour leaders raised on behalf of Nigerian workers, and we'll get into our conversation tonight.
If you get 30,000 of any economy, in any currency, this world, I think it's a big win. But these things have been eroded by bad governance. If you gain 30,000, if it's in dollar, if it's in pound, you know that that's one of the strongest negotiations you can earn. But as you are earning it, you discover that it's been eroded by lack of macro and microeconomic, operations by the state. If you gain 30,000 naira and then inflation takes it over and you devalue your naira, that it is now worth over $40, that's the problem. So the workers, as we are trying, as we are pushing to improve their condition, some forces, probably, out of leadership, are giving up. And if you gain 100,000 tomorrow, You see the level of devaluation, that they will just bring in, and down. That is making our activities so difficult. Now if you are even allowed 30,000 naira minimum wage and bring naira, at par with dollar, or even at 50 naira per to a dollar, you see that you can beat your chest anywhere that we have done a lot.
So Mr. Georgia there speaking. Well, let's lead into our conversation tonight. Our first guest with these figures, how the outgoing administration met workers and how it is leaving them come May the 29th. Well, the big one, of course, is the minimum wage. Today, Nigeria's minimum wage is at 30,000 naira. Right? So if you were to do a quick calculation, the 30,000 naira minimum wage divided by the current dollar to naira, FX rate, you get $40. But in 2015, the minimum wage was 18,000 naira. If you were to use the exchange rate at that time, it was actually $91. That's 197 naira to a dollar at that point or thereabouts. So that is the minimum wage situation 2015 versus today. Let's talk about unemployment figures, which is also central to any conversation on labor. Today, unemployment is at 33.3%. Projections even say it will get as high as 41%. And Nigeria is expecting the workforce figures for this month. It's expected to come out in the coming months. So today is at 33%. In 2015, it was at 8.2%. That's right. We'll take a look at inflation, which of course affects the value of the minimum wage, the naira, in your hands. Inflation today is at 22%. If we could just take a look at inflation, there you go. In 2015, it was less than 10%. So that gives you a picture of how things have changed. Well, there are more figures like the cost of PMS, petrol, cooking gas, the cost of food items. The list goes on and on. But we need to get into that conversation tonight. You get a sense of where we're going, and you might need to grab a seat for this one. We're joined on the program by the Honorable Minister for Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige. He was at the venue of the Workers' Day celebration earlier today, and he joins us live from the nation's capital this evening. Honorable Minister, thank you for joining us on the program. I know it's been quite a busy day for you, so thank you so much for making time out to speak to Nigerians.
Thank you, Kayode. Thank you. Happy May Day to all you Nigerians.
Indeed. But the question is just how happy is the day? Because for the average Nigerian workers, what is worth celebrating about today, really? Their minimum wage, 18,000 naira in 2015, $91 at that time. Today, it's $40, even though it's 30,000 naira. Add to that the inflation at 22%. It was less than 10% in 2015. So when you say Happy May Day, what should workers be celebrating, really?
Well, Kayode, thank you. I listened earlier to the statistics you were reading out and the economic indices, inflation, erosion of the naira to the dollar, and the rest of them all. Yes, this is world over. The rising cost of living in terms of payment for utilities, payment for transport, whether there is electricity in the utility section or water or whatever, is rising up. Cost of production, world over, rising up. So Nigeria is not insulated from this particular predicament pervading the entire world. That is not to say that a worker is not due his wages, and that the wages that a worker should take is a wage that will take him home, as said in labor parlance. So Nigerian workers are right to ask for more. The Nigerian government is also right to give them what they have under the basis or the principles of ability or capacity to pay. That is the norm in labor.
You don't promise what you cannot do. You don't tell your worker or your employee, I will pay you X amount of money, and then at the end of the day, you pay X minus Y. No, it's not allowed. So that is why you do what is called collective bargaining. Social dialogue. From social dialogue, you break the things down and then arrive at an agreement. And that agreement is now called a CBA, collective bargaining agreement. And that binds everybody. And if in the course of the journey, it is seen that this is not doable, everybody will reconvene again to the table and do another CBA. You can renegotiate a CBA. So the Nigerian workers are right in demanding what they are demanding for wage increases and giving them something that will make them live well. The decent work agenda of the ILO and the United Nations makes for people to live a good life, have shelter over their head, eat good food, and then do other things of life so that they are human beings. But I don't like the idea of every time you want to look at the naira vis-a-vis the dollar, you equate it simplicity like that. You cannot, because there are certain things that are purchasable under the naira that you don't use the dollar to purchase. Yes, if you talk in terms of food items, water, and other things, these are things that you must equate or rationalize under the naira component. There are certain components that are dollarized or dollar-based. Yes, most of them are imported materials. So if $18,000 at the time, 18,000 naira was about, you said 33 naira, I don't know the amount again you said in dollars, and what the 30,000 today.
$40, $40.
Yes, I agree there's an erosion.
Right.
Correct, for the 30,000.
Yes.
Which rate are you using? Are you using the official market rate or the black market rate?
Well, I'm using the rates that majority of Nigerians have access to.
Okay, which is the street rate. Okay, but you see, you don't have to just simplicity do this kind of rationalization and then say because it's $40 vis-a-vis what it was in 2015 that nothing has been done. No, certain things have been done. If I'm buying yam, if I'm buying vegetable, if I'm buying whatever, I don't pay for them in dollars. Right. So these are the things. But that is not to say, like I said before, that government is not trying its best. This government, apart from giving that minimum wage of 30,000, which was a 66% rise from 18,000 to 30, we meant well. Before other factors came into play, factors of economic recession, 2 recessions, and the rest of them all. We are also the government that put in the renegotiation of the minimum wage into the act, that every 5 years you automatically have to renegotiate it. So the next negotiation of the minimum wage or the next change of the minimum wage will be in the year 2024. I had advised in my handover note that the government should put in place a national minimum wage review committee. Immediately they come in.
Well,
so
Honorable Minister,
should start. So that by,
if I could come in now,
by May 2024, a new minimum wage will come.
Okay, we'll get into the minimum wage conversation, which is, central to this. It's about money. But let's go back to the point you made about the dollar. When you began responding to the question I asked, you talked about this being a global issue, and you compared this to other countries, saying it is happening everywhere, right? But when it comes to the minimum wage, you don't want to compare it to the dollar. You don't want to compare it to what's happening everywhere. In other climes, they are giving cost of living support. In the UK, you get, what is it, £400, for example, because they recognize that, well, the cost of living is increasing, so they get support. So when we compare in one sector and then we choose not to compare, don't you think that is double speak? Why not equally compare the minimum wage to the dollar, since you've said it's happening everywhere?
No, I cannot, Kayode. I cannot. Because
so you pick and choose which works for you?
is that not you don't no listen, you don't dollarize 100% simplicity everything. And I'm telling you that commodities, that things you buy here that are indigenous to us, you buy them with the naira. And if you compare the cost of buying them here, like yam, I buy yam in America. I know how much it costs me in America. So I know how much it costs any foreigner or any Nigerian or any U.S. citizen. Some U.S. citizens, friends of mine, they like yam. I've taught them how to eat yam. A tuber of yam in America is costing about $15. Translate it. While a tuber of yam here will cost about 2,000 naira, the same amount. So that's the point I'm making. I'm not picking and choosing. You are very correct that even in other climes, there are support given to workers. That is why after the national minimum wage, this government did in 2020 what is called consequential adjustment for all group of workers on the 12th wage structure in Nigeria. We have about 12 wage structure. So we gave everybody a percentage raise vis-a-vis the 6% that was done for the minimum wage. The minimum wage, by the way, is for the most vulnerable person under the lowest rung of the ladder, which in government circle or employment circle is grade level 1, step 1. That is the person that is getting minimum wage. So we reviewed everybody. Some got 30% raise, some got 25%, some got 20%, some got 15%. Those that are on the high scale level 17, they got about 5% or 10%, some of them 10%, depending whether you are in the parastatal or you are in the core civil service and earning what we call the COMPS salary scale. That is Consolidated Public Service Scale, COMPS. So this is what happened. After that adjustment, they were paid arrears, starting from 2019 May. And a lot of people got it. So these are the things you don't go announcing and blowing trumpet, but they are done. They are really done. Again, as we are speaking now, we have, without any industrial action, as a committee of the Presidential Committee on Salaries, headed by the Civil Service, head of Civil Service of the Federation, to do what we can call a rationalization of all these wage structures. There are about 12 of them. And it was pointed out that the people on COMS, Consolidated Public Service Scale, were about, in some cases, 60% differential with other wage structures.
All right.
So government moved fast to give them a 40% raise. And it's that 40% raise that we paid them about a fortnight ago or last week under what we call peculiar allowance. They got that.
Right. So, Honorable Minister.
And some mischief makers now started saying, oh, we excluded doctors, we excluded university teachers, we excluded university workers, nurses. And no, we didn't exclude anybody.
Okay.
These monies have been budgeted for.
All right.
All these unions are already involved in a negotiation for a CBA. And I told them today in Eagle Square, rush your CBA with your parent ministry or your employer, deposit it with Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment and National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission. We transmit it to PCS, Presidential Committee on Salaries.
Okay, so that's vital
CBA,
information.
The percentage I agreed will be done.
Okay, so that's vital information for those concerned. But there's a lot of ground rather to cover, and I'd like to just get you to speak to this one pointedly. Will there be an increase in wages of public servants to make up for the rising cost of living? I mean, just pointedly. You said the last time that you had approved it at a committee level. You're waiting for the president to approve.
It's been done.
It has been done.
It's been done, Kayode. That's what I'm saying now. It's been done. They have received the money. They have received the alert, effective from January 1, 2023. And it's costing the federal government about 79 billion for those on COMPS, Consolidated Public Service Salary Structure. They have gotten it. That's what I said, that some mischief makers are saying that we excluded the health workers, doctors, teachers and workers in the tertiary institutions, universities, polytechnic, and I'm saying no, we did not.
Because
These
some
are already on negotiation of CBA.
Because some interpreted that as you saying that there will be a rise in the minimum wage. if you can hear me, Minister, some interpreted it as saying, well, before this government goes,
yes,
there'll be a rise in the minimum wage. So you're saying that there will not be any rise in the minimum wage?
No.
All right. So something came up earlier today.
The minimum wage, because the act that we're implementing says that it's reviewed every 5 years. So from 2019, the next 5 years on 2019 is 2024. And I've said that incoming government will put up a committee on the review against 2024, May 2024.
Okay, so I guess that clears the air on that one. But I'd like you to take a listen to this statement made by the governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki. He actually raised the alarm, and I'd like you to listen in and get your response.
We are all workers. Yes. All of us are workers. Yes. So we are the member. I thank you for the honor. Freedom where we live. Hallelujah makes us strong. Solidarity, solidarity. Forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever.
We're working very hard to make life better for all of you. We are not oblivious of the fact that Nigeria is in trouble. The economy of our country is in a terrible state. It will be a miracle for the federal government and state governments to pay salaries beyond June this year without resorting to massively printing money or removing fuel subsidy. Either of these decisions will bring more hardships and pain to us as a people, particularly to you, the workers. Therefore, we must all make sure that the burden and pain of these measures, which must be taken, are not borne by workers alone.
Well, apologies for that mix-up earlier, but that's the point the governor was making. And he says that unless there is massive printing of the naira or the removal of subsidy, that payment of salaries will be difficult. Is that the same information you have from your end, Honorable Minister?
I don't have the same information. I've already told you that these have been budgeted for. The increases we're talking about for the doctors in the health sector. The doctors have concluded their negotiation under the auspices of the NMA with Federal Ministry of Health, and they have come to us, and salaries, incomes, and wages. We're transmitting the CBA down to Presidential Committee on Salaries. The same for the nurses and midwife and everybody in the health sector. The same for the university lecturers who went on strike for 9 months or 8 months last year. The same for workers in the university system and polytechnic. Already 350 billion have been captured in the appropriation of 2023.
So pardon me to jump in. Minister, the point he was making, I think, is not about whether or not it's being budgeted. It's about actually paying the salaries. And he says that unless there's massive printing of the naira or the removal of subsidy to maybe free up funds, then payment of salaries might be difficult. So the question is, do we have enough money to pay for salaries, at least for June and upwards?
I'm not the central bank governor, neither am I the finance minister. These two manage the Nigeria economy, the fiscal and the macro. Even if it means printing money, I cannot print. I don't even know how it is done. So I'm telling you what I know as labor minister.
All right.
And a member of the Presidential Committee on Salaries and Wages.
Okay.
So Governor Obaseki, I don't know where he has his information from, but I will advise him as a state governor to face his state and not talk about federal government. Let him face his state and make sure, like he said, that the weight of those increases are not borne by the workers alone. His political appointees, he should cut off, shed weight from them, and then get enough money. So I don't know what he's talking about. I'm not in Edo State. Like I told you, I'm not the manager of the federal economy, fiscal and macro. So for me, the one that concerns me is that as labor manager, chief labor officer of the federation, who is in charge of the workers, I'm their father. We have made provision for them. President Muhammad Buhari and this outgoing government have made provision for them. And I'm sure that the incoming government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will toe the same line, do the necessary fixing. He's a finance manager. He managed the finances of Lagos very well. He paid all the salaries that needed to be paid, and even had extra payment for his judicial workers and judges and everybody in Lagos. So I have no fear about that at all.
Well,
in fact, pensioners in Nigeria, Asiwaju was one of the governors that paid 142% rise with Rivers, and Anambra, 3 of us only. So
I wonder...
don't drag me into that area.
Well, it's just to get the direction, or at least the information you have from the perspective of the federal government. I wonder if you give that same advice to the federal government about, cutting political appointees, shedding the weight, the same way you've advised the governor of Edo State. I wonder if you're taking on that advice too for the federal government.
Well, when the government comes in, they know what to do.
No, I'm saying this current government, the current government that you're a part of is what I mean, Honorable Minister.
Uh-huh.
Have you given that advice?
Where we needed to shed Kayode. Kayode, what advice am I giving me? My salary is 942,000 naira a month.
Is that the total or just the basic?
That's my salary with my PA. Gross total after taxation.
Are you counting the allowances, Honorable Minister? Are you counting the allowances that accrue to your office, or is just
allowances? Like which one?
Are you saying you're not entitled to any other allowance apart from the 900,000 naira you get?
Okay, they mention it now. Why are you saying are you not entitled? You should be empirical.
Well, you tell Nigerians. You said which one. So are you entitled to any other allowance? Because I think it's statutory that aside the basic, you get other allowances, either for transport, feeding, and all of that. Are you saying you do not get any of those allowances?
My feeding, my transport, the salary of one PA, the salary of my gardener, my cook, they are all consolidated. And after taxation, after heavy taxation, they pay me 942,000. Every minister you see, that's what it is.
Okay,
special advisors around that amount too. That's what it is.
Okay, that's interesting. Of course, we'll be checking that as well to follow up on that one that you made. But talk to us about the policies.
Please do.
We will.
The allowances are not anything. We don't have any allowances. Except if you travel, you can get duty tour allowance. Finish, like every other public officer.
Which is usually a very juicy one as well.
I don't know what you mean. It had just been reviewed the other day. And it's reviewed to 100,000 naira a night for ministers, and I think ministers of state, 75, permanent secretaries, 70, and down the line to level 1. Everybody's own was reviewed, not only our own. So,
okay, let's wind down on this, Minister. I'm glad that you're giving out these figures for Nigerians, so at least they know what's going on the government side. But talk to us about why this government has not been able to bring down the unemployment figures. And some worry that with the new figure coming out this May, it might even be higher than 33%. Is it no clear policy? Was it a lack of implementation of those policies? Or what exactly was the factor responsible for having such high unemployment rate and not being able to bring it down?
Okay, the point there is that job creation is a cross-cutting thing. It is not only for the public sector to do. Everybody have it in mind that it's the government that creates jobs. No. If we don't work in the federal ministry or government agency, we have not got a job. No. The private sector is there. The private sector have their industries. They have workplaces. And then they create jobs through agriculture, through every other thing that they are doing. So it is not something for government alone. Job creation is a cross-cutting thing. And I'm telling you now that if the economy is not good, if the economy is suffering from some hemorrhagic afflictions, you will not have enough money in the system to ginger the system in such a way that works, jobs are created.
Okay.
That is the problem.
I know we don't...
Foreign direct investment into Nigeria has gone down.
Okay. I know we don't get to have you often. I'm hoping we can continue this conversation because we're running out of time some other day. But quickly, a strike by resident doctors, it is imminent. And, well, some have said, at least before this government goes, they hope that they will be able to curb this impending strike. Add to the fact that there's that bill for, doctors to stay back for 5 years at least before they get their full license. So I wonder what will be the thinking of this government. Is that something you support on the one hand, and are you speaking to the resident doctors such that they do not go on that strike?
Well, I've told you earlier on before that Nigeria Medical Association have almost concluded the discussion on pay rise for medical doctors. We are waiting for them to initial with their employers, deposit the CBA with me in my ministry. Same goes for the other health workers, nurses, midwives, pharmacists under Johesu. Same goes for SANU. They have concluded this with Ministry of Education before. So when they bring this, it goes to Presidential Committee on Salaries, or that wage rise. The medical doctors who are resident doctors are part of NMA.
All right.
They are young doctors in training. So if NMA is negotiating on their behalf as the parent body, because they have about 4 affiliates into the NMA. We have them, NARD, you have Consultant and Medical Practitioners Association, MDCAN. You have also the General Medical Practitioners. You have another group. So there are about 4 affiliate bodies into the NMA. So what the young men are doing is in bad taste. And I've told their president, you are disrespecting the NMA. The NMA is our parent body. The president of NMA is #1 doctor in Nigeria. So what they are doing is that they're crying wolf when there's none.
Okay, so I was asking if you support, just quickly, if you support that bill.
Negotiated this. Number 2, the bill in question, I don't support it. But you will not deny that legislator. He's right to put a private member's bill. It's not an executive bill. Even the speaker cannot stop that bill because the man is coming from a constituency. What happens in a private member's bill in National Assembly is either from your constituents that give it to you, or it's you that authored it after having a discussion with people in your constituency, and they say, this is what we think will cure this problem. But for me, that's trying to kill an ant or a fly with a sledgehammer.
Okay. We have to go now, Honorable Minister.
The better thing to do is for Federal Ministry of Health and others to look at the medical school, and for the medical school, you start talking about fees payable.
All right.
Those who cannot pay fees, you put them on bond. I was a scholarship person. I was bonded by the former East Central State government because I was on the scholarship. So that is how they should go, not going to bring a bill that put shackles and chain on the leg of anybody. No.
Well, we have to go now, Honorable Minister.
You are training them,
and it looks like you're speaking as a medical doctor now, and not as a Minister of Labor. It looks like you're speaking for your constituency. But we would like to thank you so much.
Both of them.
All right.
Both of them.
We would like to thank you so much, Dr. Chris Ngige, Honorable Minister for Labor and Employment. There's still a lot to cover, by the way, on the situation for workers. So we do hope that you'll be joining us again to continue this conversation.
I will.
All right, thank you so much for your time, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you. Thank you, Kyle.
All right, well, we take a moment now. There's so much to discuss on the Labour matter, but we're taking our attention now to the Labour Party. It's the leadership impasse that will be our focus next on the program. Please stay with us.
The National Assembly, in conjunction with the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILD, is organizing an induction program for members-elect of the 10th National Assembly. Batch A, 7th to 13th of May, 2023. Batch B, 14th to 20th of May, 2023. Venue, International Conference Center, Abuja. Distinguished senators-elect and honorable members-elect are required to come along with their certificates of return for proper documentation and accreditation at Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja, on the 7th of May for Batch A and 14th of May for Batch B. For further inquiries, please see This Day newspaper of 3rd May, Daily Trust newspaper of 4th May, The Nation and The Sun newspapers of 5th May 2023, or visit www.nils.gov.ng. That is www.nilds.gov.ng. Announcer Sani Magaji Tambua, Clerk to the National Assembly.
Some identities cannot be mistaken, like your business name and your account name. Your business name if it be shoecase, then the account now, call out Karim. If I see him, I block him straight. You don't understand? Don't confuse your customers. Sign up for a Money Point business account today and get a business account in your business name in minutes from your shop banker. Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Whatever it takes to make sure you have a business account opened in your business name, we'll do it as your sure banker. Open a bank account in your business name with Money Point.
Well, just before we get into the Labour Party, let's bring you a roundup of other trending political stories with my colleague, Victoria Longjen.
Hello everyone, I'm Victoria Longjen, and here are your political roundup stories for today. As the race for the 10th National Assembly leadership continues, a group of concerned former legislators at the state and federal level from Plateau State have declared their support for the current Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Ahmed Wase, as the next Speaker of the House in the 10th Assembly. The group told the press conference in Jos that the leadership of the Green Chambers needs to be entrusted in the hands of a competent, trusted and experienced parliamentarian that will manage and steer the affairs of the House. Spokesman of the group and former senator representing Plateau North, Senator Timothy Adudu, stressed that the credentials of Mr. Wase as a fifth-term legislator cannot be downplayed in the leadership matter. Also, the group under the aegis of the Coalition of Oil-Producing States won the national leadership of the All Progressives Congress to zone the Senate presidency to the South-South region of the country due to the contribution of the region to the emergence of the President-elect Bola Tinubu in the last presidential election. Speaking to journalists at a press conference in Abuja, the leader of the group, Mr. Joseph Okwama, also backed the call for the emergence of Senator Godswill Akpabio as the president of the 10th Senate due to his experience and leadership qualities in public service. Mr. Okwama notes that their support for Senator Akpabio is based on consideration of federal character and the zoning leadership. And ahead of the inauguration of the president-elect Bola Tinubu, a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Chukura Akwayi, is asking religious leaders to exercise caution while preaching to their adherents. Addressing the news conference in Abuja, Mr. Akwayi says there is a need for religious leaders to promote the peaceful coexistence of Nigerians by desisting from pronouncements capable of overheating the polity. The Ogun State chapter of the New Nigeria People's Party says it has withdrawn its petition filed before the Governorship Election Petition Tribunal over the March 18 governorship election, but returned the incumbent Governor Dapo Abiodun for a second term in office in the state. The state chairman of the party, Mr. Ogini Olaposi, told journalists in Abeokuta, the state capital. The petition was filed against Governor Abiodun, the All Progressives Congress, and the INEC on the grounds that the party's name was omitted on the ballot during the March 18 governorship election and sought for the total cancellation of the election. Mr. Olaposi noted that going ahead with the petition could be counterproductive against the interests of the party. In a similar development, the governorship candidate of the Socio-Democratic Party in Rivers State, Senator Magnus Abe, has also announced his withdrawal of his legal challenge to the governorship election in the state. At a meeting with party officials at the party's secretariat in Port Harcourt, Mr. Abe notes that having taken review of the situation in the state and consultation with the party both at national and at state levels, he came to the conclusion to withdraw his petition at the Election Petition Tribunal in the interest of those who have suffered and sacrificed in support of his ambition.
I take this decision very conscious of the pain, of the trauma, of the confusion that it will bring.
The National Population Commission is assuring Nigerians that the 2023 National Housing and Population Census, earlier scheduled to hold from Wednesday the 3rd to Sunday the 7th of May 2023, will still hold at a later date to be announced soon. Addressing the news conference in Abuja, the Director of Public Affairs of the Commission, Isiaka Gahaya, explains that the census was only rescheduled and not postponed indefinitely. He adds that a new date will be announced after the incoming administration of Senator Bola Tinubu has been sworn in.
The 2020 is something that is a process that has started. So you can't really postpone something that has started, but it's only a part of it that has been rescheduled.
The President General of Ohaneze Ndibo, Emmanuel Iwanyanwu, has assured the people of the Southeast of his commitment to work with everyone to develop the region. Mr. Iwanyanwu was speaking after taking the oath of office as the President General of the Socio-Political Group in Enugu. He also promised that his administration will work with all tiers of government towards the creation of a new state in the region and development of all sectors of the economy.
I'm going to rise to the challenge. It's going to be a collective responsibility. I'm going to work with everybody, and I can be rest assured that we are not going to fail.
Now, those are your political roundup stories.
Well, thank you, Victoria. It's 2 days to the neck called by the Lamidi Akpakpa-led faction of the Labour Party. The National Executive Council meeting is expected to hold in Bauchi State, but in a swift reaction, the Julius Aburi-led executives are kicking against this, calling it illegal. Well, there's a lot to cover in this, as the issues actually date back to last year's primaries and several court processes afterwards. What is going on in the camp of the party that shocked a lot of political scientists and bookmakers? Well, we're joined on the program by Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo, who's a lawyer and spokesperson of the Labour Party Obidati Presidential Campaign Council, joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Yeah, good evening for having me, and good evening, viewers joining
us. Right. For a lot of people, this is the first time they're seeing you after that episode, because a lot of your party's supporters were unhappy at your seeming admittance that that leaked audio was indeed Mr. Obi's voice. And Mr. Obi and the party, of course, released a statement later describing it as fake and doctored. And for a lot of people, they were wondering what exactly played out in that episode.
Well, as you can see, we just have about 10 minutes left. If you can proceed to the issue of the party, because there's no more time. At a very comfortable time next time, we'll address that issue.
Okay.
It is still, you know, you don't give relevance to a tape that has no author. That tape has no author.
No, I'm talking about the statement.
Value and it's useless.
Right. I'm talking about the statement that you put out, Mr. Okonkwo. Yes. Oh, by the way, we actually scheduled more time, but I mean, we wish you had arrived earlier, so we'll have more time on this conversation. But I'm talking about the statement you released. What exactly was it that there was no approval from the party? For a lot of people, this is the first time they're actually hearing you speak after that. So just to clear the air, essentially, that's the point.
Well, like I said, I am here to talk about the Labour Party, and we don't have time. We will have time for that, and we will clear the air, because there is nothing you can say about a useless tape that has no author. That tape has no author, so it is useless, and it's not worth saying anything about it. You don't deny or confirm anything about a useless tape. I simply said there is nothing in that tape that needs anybody to deny or to confirm. I have no business denying or confirming a useless tape. If we can proceed.
So essentially you're saying that you did not confirm that, even though you said our attention has been drawn to the publication of this audio tape of a private conversation between Peter Obi and Bishop Oyedepo. So you're saying that you didn't mean to confirm that by using those words, essentially. I
said the tape is not worthy of confirming or denying, because there's nothing in that tape whatsoever. That is what I said. So it does not need my attention. It has no author, so it has no probative value in law. It is as useless as people saying there is anything in the tape. But I'm here to talk about the party, and if we may proceed, because there's no more time left.
All right, Mr. Okonkwo, it's okay. You actually gave it your attention just to get you to speak to it. But let's talk about the leadership situation within your party, the Labour Party. Oh, by the way, that's the tweet you put out regarding that particular audio tape. So you actually spoke to it just for reference for our viewers. But let's talk about the leadership situation. ENEC has been called for Wednesday by the Lamidi Akpakpa faction. So let's take a step back and get the benefit of your legal background to understand the court's ruling, one from Abuja, the other from Benin. What is the difference? Because a lot of people are saying there are courts of coordinate jurisdiction. The one in Benin trumps the one in Abuja, or the one in Abuja trumps the one in Benin. You're a legal practitioner, so you have at least better understanding. What is the difference?
First of all, it's an insult to common sense to be calling Lamidi Akpakpa's political gerrymandering, to be calling them a faction in Labour Party. Please, they are political clowns, not worthy to be mentioned with regard to Labour Party. They are politicians of convenience.
Mr. Okonkwo, I'd like us to measure our words. Mr. Okonkwo, please, let's measure the words and speak to the issues. I mean, describing someone as a clown.
Good.
It might insult their sensibility. So let's speak to the issues, since they're not here to defend themselves.
That's what I'm saying. They are politicians of convenience and politicians of fortune. They are not politicians of conviction. They are not politicians of fortitude. I'm here to tell you that you should not ever call them a faction of Labour Party. There is no crisis in Labour Party. And I refer you to the Labour Party Constitution. Article 13, 1B, IV, says it is only the National Convention that can elect or remove the national officers. And then Article 13, 2B, XVI and XVII, he said it is only the NEC that can replace the vacancy in any national office. And it is only the NEC that can discipline any national officer. So please, these people you're calling that they are a faction of Labour Party, who brought them in as leaders of the national, as the national officers of Labour Party? Please, they are not. in any way any Labour Party national officers. Having said that, you rightly pointed out that there were two orders of courts of coordinate jurisdiction, one from Edo, where the main issue started from, and which the Supreme Court has settled in Suleiman and APC, and I'm talking about 2023, 5 NWL LR, and I'm talking about Part 1877. The Supreme Court made it clear that it is only the courts from where the cause of action arose that has jurisdiction to talk about any issue. And that court is located in Edo State. And the court has given an order restraining anybody from restraining the national officers of Labour Party from doing their duties. So the ex parte order by the courts in the Federal Capital Territory, which lacks jurisdiction to entertain it, is null and void.
All right, Mr. Okonkwo, for the benefit of our viewers, let us show that court, the court ruling from Benin City first, and see who the court was speaking to and what the court asked for. If we just pull that up, the court. So that's what the court said, the final ruling from the Benin City High Court, saying that I hereby make an order of interim injunction restraining the first and second defendants. By the way, the first and second defendants in this case, the Ward 3 chairman, that's Thompson Ehigwese and Lucky Shoaibu, essentially. Those are the first and second defendants, and those are the ones that the judge was speaking to. So it says, from submitting and or transmitting the purported notice of suspension signed by Ward 3 executive of Labour Party to the third defendant for deliberation. The third defendant is Labour Party. So when you say that the court in Benin restricts even the national officers, at what point or which part of this order does that reflect, or is that reflected, rather?
No. I said the courts in the Federal Capital Territory is the one that restrained or purportedly restrained the national officers from acting. The court in Benin City restrained the defendants, that's those people who purportedly suspended the national officers, from doing anything with that illegal suspension. Meaning
this is Mr. Okonkwo, pardon me. Please, let's go through the Abuja one now, just so we know, because the Abuja case does not refer to the ward at all. In fact, you can see the defendants, Mr. Bure and others. And the order from the court, if we just go to the lower part, essentially says that the first to the fourth defendant, that from Mr. Bure to Mr. Ojukwu, that their agents, previous servants, employees, and representatives whatsoever described are actually restricted from or restrained from parading themselves as national chairman, national secretary, and all. And then he goes on to say an order is granted abridging the time. So it does not speak to the ward, which the case in Benin is about. So to that extent, aren't they different?
Good. That is why I'm telling you. That is why that order is flawed completely. Having read that order, what have you made out of that order? Nothing. The order is flawed. First of all,
are you describing the order of a court as flawed? That's the order of a court.
Oh, yes. So, yes, you have the right to criticize the ruling of a court. That ruling ought not to have been in the first place. By the law, the law says it clearly. You cannot use ex parte order. You cannot use it to affect the interest of an adverse party that you have not heard from. What that order did, ex parte order is meant to be a shield to protect a claimant from irreparable damage that will occur to him before the other party is heard. You cannot use ex parte motion and ex parte order to affect the interest of another party that you have not heard from. That is against the Constitution, Section 36, Section 1, and Section 36, subsection 5. You cannot affect the rights of any Nigerian without first of all hearing from him. That is against natural justice, equity, and good conscience.
Right, Mr. Okonkwo, as we wind down,
the Supreme Court has already condemned.
Right. So is that why Mr. Bure is remaining as the national chairman in disobedience of that court order? So he would rather disobey the court order rather than go to court to withdraw that order?
Oh, sorry. Mr. Bure and Labour Party is a law-abiding party. despite the fact that that order is completely flawed because it is an abuse of ex parte order. So the Labour Party, Abure, is restrained. He's not doing anything now. Pending the determination, the court is going to rule on jurisdiction.
But the one from Benin City, isn't it an ex parte order as well? The one from Benin City is also an ex parte order. So what's different?
No, like I said, you use the ex parte order to restrain people from doing damage to your rights. That is what Julius Abure did in the Benin High Court that has jurisdiction over it. But the Abuja High Court, they used ex parte order to behead a human being in Nigeria. A political party is a human being recognized by law.
Well, Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo,
an ex parte order.
I mean, you're a legal practitioner, so I imagine that you, at least you hold the courts in high esteem, but we're totally out of time. We wish we had more time for this. But we'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo, who is a lawyer and spokesperson, Labour Party Obidati Presidential Campaign Council. He's also a columnist, by the way. Thank you so much for your time. Well, that's been the program for today, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikumi. Goodbye.
Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser. Or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Channels Television, ubiquitous.
It's nice to have you join us. You're watching News Track on Channels Television. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and these are the stories and reports we're tracking for you at this time. Workers all over the world are observing the day as Workers' Day, celebrated on the first day of May every year to commemorate the struggles and gains made by the workers and, of course, the labor movement. Now, here in Nigeria, organized labor and their affiliates converged at the Eagle Square, Abuja, for their usual parade. Some of those in attendance at the rally are the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Boss Mustafa, Minister of Labor and Employment, Mr. Chris Ngige, Minister